Before I could process her words, she pulled the trigger, but luckily for me. Her aim was terrible, and she missed. My instincts took over, and I fired a single shot, hitting her in the shoulder and knocking the gun out of her hands. She screamed, clutching shoulder with the opposite hand. My father dropped the bag of money and drew a knife and then charged towards me. Before he got more than 2 feet, I shot him in the leg, which made him stumble and lose his balance. I then drew my baton and swung it at him, striking him across the chest, sending him stumbling backward. I hit him 2 more times, though, to incapacitate him, though. The next few moments were a blur of chaos. Backup arrived, and before I knew it, my parents were in handcuffs, being led out of the store. My heart was racing, my mind spinning. I had just arrested my own parents. I can still remember the suffocating darkness of that house. The walls always felt like they were closing in, trapping me in a prison I couldn't escape. My name is Clara, and the story of my childhood is one I spent years trying to forget, only for it to come crashing back in a way I never imagined. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Growing up, my parents, if you could even call them that, weren't the kind of people you would expect to have children. They treated me less like their daughter and more like a burden or an inconvenience. My father, Derek, was a towering man, not just in stature, but in the way he carried himself. His presence filled every room with a smothering tension, and his words cut sharper than any knife. My mother, Diane, was no better. She had this eerie calmness about her, like a snake waiting to strike, her cruelty always simmering just beneath the surface. From what I later learned from their insults, they never wanted a girl. Additionally, on the day I was born, my parents' cars were stolen, so I was seen as bad luck from that moment on. Most days, it was the small things they used to break me down, chip away at any sense of worth I might have had. My father would walk into the kitchen, glance at me, and scoff.
Look at you. You're pathetic, Clara. Useless. What do you even do around here?
I'd lower my head, stare at my hands, and mutter or cry. Anything to make me seem smaller and less like a target. I'm sorry.
Speak up when I'm talking to you.
I'm sorry, Dad. Did I do something wrong?
Yeah, you were born.
It was kind of a messed up thing to say to a kid, but he didn't care. Nothing I said or did ever mattered to either him or my mom. My mother would watch from the corner, a smirk playing at her lips as if she enjoyed seeing him tear me apart. Sometimes she'd add her own venom.
Don't bother apologizing, Clara. You'll never be good enough for anything. You're just like a stain we can't wash out.
I'd spend nights locked in my room, clutching my pillow so hard I thought it would tear, trying to smother the sound of my crying. They wouldn't care if they heard me. They never did. Every day of my life was like that. They would constantly bounce between ignoring me or outright verbally abusing me. There were even times that they would lock me out of the house and make me sleep in the backyard. It wasn't like they would give me a sleeping bag or a tent. Nope. All I had was the grass for a bed, and it didn't matter if it was raining or snowing. I would have to figure out a way to try to stay dry. As a result, I was always sick and underweight. On the days they would lock me out, I wouldn't have a thing to eat unless I was able to find something. I would go through our neighbors' garbages looking for scraps of food, or I would go to the woods near our home and try to find berries to eat. The amount of times that I ate berries that made me sick was not a small number, but I was starving and had no other choice. When I turned 16, something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the accumulation of years of abuse, or maybe it was just that I had finally reached my limit. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I couldn't let them destroy what little was left of me. The night I ran away was cold. I packed what little I had, a few clothes, some money I'd saved from odd jobs, and some food that I stole from the pantry. Sneaking out of the house wasn't difficult. My parents never paid much attention to me unless they were yelling at me. The old front door creaked as I opened it, and my father heard it and came to see what the noise was.
Where do you think you're going?
Anywhere but here.
Oh? You've chosen to run away then?
Yeah, living on the streets would be better than living here with you monsters.
Good. That will save us some money since we won't have to feed your worthless ass. I hope you die out there.
His words cut me one last time, but it was just the push I needed to rush out of that house. I started walking, not knowing exactly where I was going, but certain that anywhere would be better than the home I had just left behind. The next few years weren't easy. I slept on friends' couches, in shelters, sometimes on the streets. But it didn't matter. I was free. Every day was a struggle, but it was my struggle. I worked whatever jobs I could find, waitressing, cleaning, anything to get by. And I went to school, determined to make something of myself, to prove to myself that I was worth more than the garbage my parents had always said I was. It took time, but I eventually earned enough to apply to the police academy. I don't know what drew me to law enforcement exactly. Maybe it was the idea of being able to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. The years passed, and I grew stronger into someone I barely recognized. A woman who could hold her head high and face the world without flinching. I graduated from the academy and became a police officer. I was so proud of myself and how much I had grown. But no matter how far I'd come, the past had a way of finding me. One night, when I was responding to call about a robbery in progress, I was the first on the scene, the adrenaline pumping through my veins as I pulled up to the small convenience store. I grabbed my gun, approached the entrance cautiously, and stepped inside. The moment I saw them, I froze. My heart dropped into my stomach as I saw my parents. My mother was standing at the counter, her hands trembling as she pointed a gun at the terrified cashier. My father was rifling through the register, stuffing cash into a bag. He appeared to be unarmed. I had heard them mention that they would from time to time steal in order to get by, but I never knew that they would rob a store. I had to assume that times were hard for them. Drop the weapon. My mother turned, her eyes widening as she saw me. I wasn't sure if she recognized me or not. After all, it had been several years since they had last seen me.
Get out of here or you'll regret it.
Mom, it's over. Put the gun down.
Don't call me that. You're nothing to me.
Yeah, and I know that I never was more than a burden in your eyes, but I'm a police officer now. It's my duty to enforce the law and protect people like this man you are robbing. So put down your weapons and let's talk this out.
Of course it's you, the little rat we let live. How ironic.
He didn't even seem to care that I was pointing a gun at him. Even now, he viewed me as just insignificant, and he just assumed that I wouldn't have the courage to arrest them, let alone pull the trigger. I took a deep breath, fighting the storm of emotions surging inside me. Put the money down, Dad. This doesn't have to get worse.
Clara, you think you're better than us now, don't you? With your badge and your gun, you're still that worthless little girl. That dirty little animal that would sleep in the dirt where you belonged.
This isn't about us. Now put your weapons down. This doesn't have to escalate. There was a moment of silence. My mother glanced at my father, then back at me. I saw her finger twitch on the trigger, and I knew I had to act before things spiraled further out of control. I'm not asking again. Drop the weapon. Now. For a moment, I thought she might comply, but then her lips curled into a cruel smile. She hadn't changed over the years and was still just as vicious.
You'll always be nothing, Clara.
Before I could process her words, she pulled the trigger, but luckily for me. Her aim was terrible, and she missed. My instincts took over, and I fired a single shot, hitting her in the shoulder and knocking the gun out of her hands. She screamed, clutching shoulder with the opposite hand. My father dropped the bag of money and drew a knife and then charged towards me. Before he got more than 2 feet, I shot him in the leg, which made him stumble and lose his balance. I then drew my baton and swung it at him, striking him across the chest, sending him stumbling backward. I hit him 2 more times, though, to incapacitate him, though. The next few moments were a blur of chaos. Backup arrived, and before I knew it, my parents were in handcuffs, being led out of the store. My heart was racing, my mind spinning. I had just arrested my own parents. Both of them were taken to the hospital where they were treated for their wounds, and after they were patched up, they were released into our custody. We put them into the back of a police van. The ride back to the station was silent. I sat across from them in the back of the police van, watching their faces, waiting for something, anything, that would explain what had just happened. But they didn't speak. As they were processed, I stood by, watching as they were led into separate holding cells. My father glanced at me one last time before disappearing behind the bars, but there was no emotion in his eyes, no remorse, no regret. Just the same cold, empty hatred I had seen all my life. I waited until my fellow officers walked away, and then I approached his cell. It's funny that you always told me that I would amount to nothing and that I was worthless, but now look at us. I've made something of myself. I help people every day. I have friends and a good life, and you're just some two-bit crook that is going to spend a lot of time behind bars.
You think because you became a cop that makes you special?
Yes, it does. Because I was able to grow strong and proud of myself and become a hero, in spite of being raised by two of the dumbest villains on Earth. Oh, and just so you know, I chose to not shoot you both in the head. The fact that Mom fired first gave me the right to use lethal force. Just keep that in mind. As I walked away, I saw my father's eyes widen as he realized what I had just told him. He and my mother were only alive right now because I had chosen not to shoot to kill. That fact clearly rattled him to his core. Sitting in the station after it was all over, I couldn't help but think about the irony of it all. I had spent my entire life running from them, trying to escape the damage they had done, only to end up here. My parents were later charged with robbery and sentenced to 15 years in prison. All of their property was seized, and the family cut ties with them. By the time they are released, they will both be quite old and broke. There was a sense of closure in it. They no longer had any power over me. I was no longer that scared, broken girl hiding in her room, waiting for the next insult or slap. I was stronger now, stronger than they could ever be. And as I left the station that night, the weight of my past finally began to lift. I wasn't running anymore. I was standing still, grounded, and for the first time in my life, I was free. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
It's not fair. How could you take him from us? Our kids are still so young. Because of you, they're going to grow up without a father. Are you happy? Are you satisfied?
I began to cry too. I nearly fainted because everyone in the courtroom held nothing but hatred in their eyes for me. The crying woman in front of me made me regret every single bad action I made. The judge quickly read out the charges and the sentences. It was as if he wanted to get rid of me as fast as he could. I was sentenced to life in prison. I saw my parents crying silently. I knew I disappointed them in the worst way. As for the damage to my spine, it meant I would never fully recover. Hi there, my name is Salim. I'm 27 years old, and I'm serving a life sentence in prison. You might wonder what could lead a young man like me to spend the rest of his life behind bars. To be honest, it all boils down to a string of reckless decisions that I made along the way. I grew up in a loving Muslim household with my parents. They did everything they could to give me a comfortable life. From the moment I was born, it was clear I was their pride and joy. I lived in a spacious, well-furnished home, attended the best schools, and wore clothes that were always in style. My parents spared no expense to ensure I had the best of everything. Being their last child, I was their little prince. They showered me with affection and gifts, and it was no secret that I was their favorite. My siblings, who were older and had seen the same level of care and attention fade as they grew up, often voiced their frustrations. They felt neglected compared to the attention and privileges I received. But my parents were unwavering. They saw me as their final chance to relive their parenting glory, and they were determined to make the most of it. I was their baby, and they made sure everyone knew it. They didn't hold back and indulged me in ways that were both obvious and extravagant. It was as if they wanted to prove to the world, and perhaps to themselves, that they were giving me everything they could, perhaps to make up for any regrets they might have had with their other children. I didn't realize it at the time, but this constant stream of indulgence was shaping me in ways that would eventually lead to my downfall. Looking back, I can see how their well-intentioned pampering fostered a sense of entitlement in me. It led to a life where I felt invincible and beyond the reach of consequences. As a teenager, I was the embodiment of rebellion. My parents had worked so hard to give me everything, yet I threw it all away with reckless abandon. I hung out with a group of friends who were as lost as I was. We spent our days and nights smoking, partying, and even harassing girls. Breaking rules and being rebels was thrilling. My friends and I would rather gather in rooms, inhaling unhealthy smoke, than do something better for ourselves. We avoided our prayers. Matter of fact, our religion as a whole. We laughed and joked about our exploits. It felt like we were invincible, living in a bubble of our own making. The thrill of partying all night, defying curfews, and ignoring the consequences was intoxicating. I would come home in the early hours of the morning, my clothes reeking of smoke, my head spinning from the night's excesses. My parents would be waiting for me, their faces etched with worry and disappointment. They often tried to reach out to me, to pull me back from the edge, but I was too caught up in my own world to listen.
This isn't how we raised you, Salim. Why are you hurting us? We never made you sad, so why are you doing this to us?
I could always see the hurt in her eyes, and a part of me would feel guilty. But because I felt I was doing the right thing and simply enjoying my teenage years, I would try to make her understand. I'm just hanging out with friends, Mom. You don't understand. It's just how we do things. Times have changed. This is how we have fun now.
Salim, this isn't fun. You're destroying your life and betraying your religion. Son, we're worried about you. This behavior isn't who you are. It's not the path we've worked so hard to set for you.
I knew they were disappointed and concerned. I knew they truly wanted the best for me, but at that time, I thought I was doing the right thing, and they should understand me. I get it, Dad, but you don't understand. My friends, they get me. They're my world. You should understand me too. I know you both want the best for me, but you should trust me to take care of myself. I know what's best for me. Despite my parents' heartfelt pleas, I continued down my destructive path. My mother soon noticed that I'd stopped attending prayers, much to her dismay. She tried countless times to force me to pray with her, but it never worked. My mind wasn't prepared to pray anymore. One night, after a particularly wild party, I found myself in a situation that wasn't really new, but it landed me in trouble. We were in the park, and a few of my friends began harassing a group of girls. They were making crude jokes and pushing boundaries, and I, caught up in the moment, joined in. We'd beaten one of the girls up and left her there without caring about what the consequences would be. Unfortunately for us, we were caught. The area had CCTV cameras around, and her father was in the police force. My friends and I were arrested and locked up in the police custody. My parents were devastated when they heard the news. They and my siblings rushed to the police station to see me. As I looked at them, I felt ashamed to see their looks of hurt. I saw my mom go on her knees to beg the girl's father because he refused to grant us bail. My dad begged for days. My siblings ensured to bring me food and also assure me that they'd get me out. Eventually, my parents' pleading paid off, and I was released. My other friends were also released because my parents had begged on their behalf since their own parents had given up on them and abandoned them. When we got home, my mom burst into tears. My dad was visibly broken. For the first time in my life, I saw my dad cry. And it was because of me. I resolved to change my ways. I wanted to do better for my parents because they deserved it. They didn't deserve to be getting hurt by me all the time. I stopped speaking to my friends. I reduced smoking because I couldn't just stop. I began eating healthy food. I also begged my mom to teach me how to pray again, and she was more than happy to do so. I saw my family smile happily again whenever they saw me. Their happiness motivated me to do even better. Unfortunately, that didn't last too long. My friends came over to see me one day, and that was the beginning of another rebellion. They told me about their plan to rob a bank. I was hesitant at first because I'd never stolen anything before. I knew my friends often broke into people's houses to steal things sometimes, but I was never part of them. I did all other things, but that's too dangerous. I can't do it. In fact, I'm turning a new leaf. I'm trying to make my parents happy again. If I do this, then I'm going to make them sad when they find out. They refused to give up. They told me I wouldn't need to steal anything. They said all they needed me to do was be on the lookout for them while they did the robbing. I thought about it and decided to give in. After all, I wasn't going to be robbing. I began to hang out with my friends again because we had to make plans for the operation. I was only 21 then. I would lie to my parents about wanting to take a walk. They were happy to see me trying to be healthy, and it made me feel guilty because I was lying to them. Instead of taking the walk, I would go to my friends. Being with them, I couldn't avoid smoking heavily. I would refuse the alcohol because I didn't want to get drunk, but I would smoke a lot. When I returned home, my parents were mostly already asleep or already in their rooms, so they never saw that I returned home very high. Eventually, the day of the robbery attack came. I was so nervous. My parents and siblings were away, as they'd gone to spend a week at my grandparents'. They wanted me to go with them, but I refused. I pretended to be busy with something important, so they let me meet them later. The day after they left home, I went with my friends to the bank where they were supposed to rob. When I arrived at the meeting place, my heart was racing. I had been told I was just there to help keep watch, but what happened next shocked me. One of my friends handed me a gun. I held it awkwardly. What am I supposed to do with this?
Are you going to watch out without any protection? What if the police come? You have to shoot at them if necessary. Be a man.
I was terrified. I didn't want to get involved in anything dangerous. I tried to argue, but my friends threatened to tell my parents everything I'd been up to since I returned from the police custody. I didn't want them to find out. So, reluctantly, I took the gun. We drove to the bank, and I felt a knot of fear in my stomach. We were all wearing masks and dark clothes. My heart was pounding, but I tried to act calm. I held the gun tightly, though it felt strange and heavy in my hands. Inside the bank, everything seemed to go according to plan. My friends were quick and efficient, and we took control of the situation. I stayed near the entrance, trying to stay out of the way, but still keep an eye on things. As we started to leave the bank, everything began to fall apart. I heard the distant sound of sirens, which grew louder and closer. Panic set in. I glanced back and saw police cars pulling up to the bank. Officers jumped out, their guns ready. Suddenly, there was chaos. One of my friends shouted at me to run. We started to sprint, but it was clear we were too late. The police were already closing in. I was frozen with fear. I didn't know what to do. The gun in my hand felt heavier and heavier. The police began firing. My friends tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered and overwhelmed. In a blind panic, I raised the gun and started shooting at the police. My hands were shaking, and my shots were wild, but I could see the police officers falling. I felt sick to my stomach as I realized what I was doing. 2 officers went down, and the sight of their bodies made me feel even more terrified. Just as I was trying to escape, I felt a sharp pain in my back. I could hear the sounds of my friends crying out as they too were hit by police bullets. I looked around and saw them falling. I blacked out from the pain and fear. When I woke up, I was in an ambulance, lying on a stretcher. The pain in my back was intense, and I could barely move. The sirens were still blaring, and I was rushed to the hospital. The court hearings were absolutely heartbreaking. Apparently, I had killed some police officers. My lawyer tried to defend me, but it was clear that the evidence against me was overwhelming. The judge read out the charges and the sentences. I was sentenced to life in prison. While it was going on, the wife of one of the cops I'd killed attacked me. Security around tried to pull her away, but her grip was so tight.
You're so evil. He has 3 children. Where do I start from with them, you wicked thing? Why did you kill him?
All I could do was apologize to her. I felt my heart shatter as I saw the pain in her eyes. I felt nothing but pure hatred.
It's not fair. How could you take him from us? Our kids are still so young. Because of you, they're going to grow up without a father. Are you happy? Are you satisfied?
I began to cry too. I nearly fainted because everyone in the courtroom held nothing but hatred in their eyes for me. The crying woman in front of me made me regret every single bad action I made. The judge quickly read out the charges and the sentences. It was as if he wanted to get rid of me as fast as he could. I was sentenced to life in prison. I saw my parents crying silently. I knew I'd disappointed them in the worst way. As for the damage to my spine, it meant I would never fully recover. I was left with a broken body and a broken life.
I hope you know how much you've hurt us. You're going to make us live the rest of our lives wondering how we went wrong with you. I hope you know that.
I deeply regret having you as a child, Salim. That crying woman is going to live as a widow with 3 children who are now fatherless, all because of you. The other cop was the only son and the breadwinner of his family. I hope you know that you've damaged them by killing him. I couldn't stop crying. I tried to hold my mom, but she slapped my hands off. She only stared at me once more before leaving the courtroom. I cried loudly, begging for forgiveness, but everyone abandoned me. I deserved it. I still do. It's been 6 years since I've been in jail, yet I still have decades to go, depending on how long I live for. My parents never visited me. My older siblings only visited me twice to tell me how my end had affected my parents. The first time, I was told that my dad was battling depression and my mom's health was failing.
The second time, I heard that they were better, but refused to let anyone ever speak about me. They'd canceled me and didn't want to hear even my name. I cry every day because I feel like a total failure. They gave me everything, and all they received was pain. I would give anything to go back in time and correct my actions, or even get a hug from my parents and see their smiles again. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel.
One Christmas, we were both given presents. Angel unwrapped a shiny new tablet, while I received a pair of worn-out headphones and a few old books. I could tell from the look on Angel's face that she was thrilled, and as she hugged her new tablet, I tried to force a smile, even though my gift felt like a slap in the face.
Oh, Angel, you seem to like your gift. Come here and show us how it works, darling.
As they gathered around her to admire her gift, I stood off to the side, feeling like a spectator in my own home. It wasn't just material things either. When Angel had school events, my parents would be there, front and center, cheering her on. I remember one of my own school plays where I had a small role. I was so excited to finally get a chance to perform, but on the day of the play, my parents were nowhere to be found. Hi, my name's Debbie. I'm the eldest of my parents' 2 kids, and I have a younger sister, Angel, who's 3 years younger than me. Angel was beautiful and very smart in school. From early on, it was pretty obvious that Angel was the favorite. It felt like a rule of nature. She always got the fancier clothes, the flashier toys, and the bigger snacks. Whenever my parents made plans, Angel was always their first choice, leaving me on the sidelines. I remember a particularly painful instance when we were 16 and 13. My birthday had just passed a few days before Angel's, and it felt like the whole world was celebrating hers while mine was barely acknowledged. All I got was a terse, happy birthday from my parents, and it seemed like they had already moved on. They started making plans for Angel's birthday celebration, and I was there, sitting quietly in the living room, listening to their excited chatter.
I'm thinking of a small party for Angel with her friends to start the day. And then we can all head to the beach afterward. It'll be a perfect day. You'd love that, right, baby?
I tried to keep my feelings in check, but it was hard. My stomach twisted into knots as I heard them discuss the details of the beach trip. They never once mentioned that I would be going with them. And the more I listened, the more I felt like my heart was being squeezed. On the day of Angel's birthday, the house was buzzing with activity. Her friends arrived, and there was laughter and music as they celebrated. I watched from the sidelines, feeling increasingly invisible. When the party was over and her friends had left, my parents told me they were heading to the beach to continue the celebration.
Debbie, we're going to the beach now. Angel's really looking forward to it. Look at her. She's so excited. I feel so lucky to be her dad.
I tried to muster up the courage to speak. Can I come too? I'd really love to go. I'd been dying to have a family picture with them at the beach, but they never let me go with them, and it was making me sad. If they didn't know how badly I wanted to be there, it would have been different. But they knew. I'd always been vocal about it, so they knew. I was hoping they would finally agree, but my heart got shattered by my mom's words.
Sorry, Debbie. We already planned this for Angel's special day. Maybe next time.
As they walked out, Angel's excited chatter filled the air, and I felt a wave of loneliness wash over me. They left without a second glance, and I was left alone in the quiet house, feeling like a ghost in my own home. My heart ached as I imagined them enjoying the beach while I sat in silence, knowing this wasn't the first time I'd been left out. The sting of their favoritism was something I had grown used to, but that day, it felt especially sharp. It wasn't only the big things like the expensive clothes and lavish birthday parties. It was also the small, everyday things that cut the deepest. For instance, during school, Angel always had the newest gadgets and the latest fashion, while I was handed down some of my mom's old clothes and secondhand books she got from my cousins. When Angel flaunted her latest smartphone or a designer bag, I was still using my outdated stuff, and no one seemed to notice or care. One Christmas, we were both given presents. Angel unwrapped a shiny new tablet, while I received a pair of worn-out headphones and a few old books. I could tell from the look on Angel's face that she was thrilled, and as she hugged her new tablet, I tried to force a smile, even though my gift felt like a slap in the face.
Oh, Angel, you seem to like your gift. Come here and show us how it works, darling.
As they gathered around her to admire her gift, I stood off to the side, feeling like a spectator in my own home. It wasn't just material things either. When Angel had school events, my parents would be there, front and center, cheering her on. I remember one of my own school plays where I had a small role. I was so excited to finally get a chance to perform, but on the day of the play, my parents were nowhere to be found. When I got home, I was in tears. I was so angry about them missing it. Even as I was crying, they seemed so nonchalant. They didn't apologize until I began to yell at them.
Why are you getting so worked up over this little issue? You know how busy we are, Debbie. Quit being a child and under us.
I was taken aback by how he suddenly began yelling at me. My mom quickly stepped in and held him to calm him.
We'll make it up to you, Debbie.
But that making it up never came. In fact, after that day, they pretended to have forgotten about the whole issue. When it came to chores or responsibilities at home, Angel would often be spared from doing the less pleasant tasks. I'd be the one scrubbing the floors and washing dishes while Angel lounged on the couch, watching TV or playing games. If I complained, my dad would say, "You're the older sister. It's your job to set an example." The way they treated us on vacations was another clear sign. Whenever we went on family trips, Angel always got the best room or the best seat in the car. I was often stuck with the least comfortable arrangements just as long as Angel was happy. And then there were the times when my parents would make plans and deliberately leave me out. They'd discuss their weekend plans, and if I showed interest, they'd dismiss it with a quick, "Oh, it's just a family thing for Angel's benefit." I was always the odd one out, left behind while they enjoyed time together as a family. All of these little things added up, creating a constant reminder that no matter what I did or how well I behaved, I would never be able to measure up to the gold standard that was Angel. Favoritism was a part of my everyday life, and no matter how much I tried to blend into the background, the disparities never ceased to sting. Well, it continued that way as we grew up to become young ladies. I moved out of my parents' house right after my 25th birthday. 2 reasons. 1, I didn't want to face any more favoritism display. 2nd was I needed my privacy. I was dating Max, the son of the wealthiest businessman in the city. I'd met him after a meeting once, and we'd connected instantly. We were only friends for a few months before we began dating. Max was the best thing I'd ever had. He never made me feel unloved and spoiled me in every way possible. In fact, the house I'd moved into, he bought it for me as my birthday gift. According to him, he'd been wanting to do it, but never found the right opportunity until my birthday. I ensured it wasn't one-sided. In every way I could, I also made sure to be there for him. We both loved and appreciated each other. On the night of Max's 30th birthday, which was 4 months after my 27th birthday, he proposed to me. That was 2.5 years after we began dating. I was so happy and wasted no time in agreeing to marry him. 2 days after our engagement, he took me to his parents. To my surprise, they were both humble people, despite how wealthy they were. Contrary to stories I'd heard about how rich people were to people like me who weren't born rich, Max's parents were different. His dad kept showing praises to me for how beautiful and intelligent I was. As for his mom, she refused to let me out of her sight. In the days that followed, she would bring me along with her for shopping, send me flowers randomly, boast about me to her friends, and never failed to give me words of encouragement every time I had to attend a meeting. Her husband was the same. He would randomly call to check in on me, send me food from any new restaurant he tried, since we both had a thing for trying new places. They were both doing everything I wished my parents did instead. I got promoted a month after my engagement, and my company was hosting a party to celebrate all promoted workers. I'd invited my parents to come watch me, but they refused because they had to go somewhere more important with Angel. It turned out that the 3 of them went over to spend time with my grandparents and didn't take me along. I was so sad, but Max was there to make me feel good. On the day of the party, his parents showed up for me. His mother had even given a speech for me, showering praises and nice words on me. I was moved to tears as I imagined my mom doing that instead. After the party, I hugged the woman and thanked her nonstop. Max wanted us to get married after 2 months of being engaged, so I finally decided to take him to my family. They'd accepted him warmly, and I was excited. Unfortunately, the news I got 2 days later wasn't something I ever imagined. Max had come to me and revealed that my parents had called him over the previous day, only to tell him to break up with me and be with my younger sister instead. According to him, they'd said I wasn't fitting for him and spewed vile words about me to him. They told him Angel was better than me in every way and encouraged him to break up with me and go for her. I was devastated, but he managed to help me calm down. Max noticed and assured me that he'd never leave me for my sister in any world. I became calm after. That same evening, I got a video group call from my parents.
When are you going to break up with Max?
You don't deserve a man like Max. He is good for your sister instead.
I was furious and just dropped the call. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when Angel tried to get me fired from work because she believed that Max was still with me because I had a job. She had come to our office and told lies to my boss, telling her how I was a thief and vile things. It didn't end up as she planned because not only was she sent out of the company, she also got hit by a car on her way home, and the accident landed her in the emergency ward at the hospital. After surgery, the doctor announced to us that Angel would never be able to walk on her own ever again. We were all sad, but my parents were obviously sadder. They wailed nonstop and kicked me away when I tried to comfort them. I got married to Max a month later, but my parents and Angel weren't in attendance, and that was because I refused to invite them. I'd come to know that my parents were in on Angel's plan to make me lose my job. That was the last straw that made me accept that I wasn't wanted by them, and immediately cut them off. After my wedding with Max, we moved away to our mansion and started a new life together. Well, 5 years later, my dad tried reaching out to me. Apparently, Angel was a liability to them because of her broken spine. My mom had also gotten severely sick, and my dad couldn't afford her treatments while taking care of Angel. Did you think I helped? Of course not. None of them deserved my kindness. I reminded him that I'd cut them off as family and was happier with my husband, in-laws, and 2 kids. Deal with your problems yourself. Or better still, ask your lovely daughter to assist you. Oops, I forgot she's crippled and useless now. I could hear my mom's crying voice in the background, and I immediately knew the call was on speakerphone, which made me happy. After taunting him enough and warning him to never try reaching out to me or my family, I ended the call and blocked his line. A year later, I heard that my mother had died from her illness. I never attended her funeral, and my dad was devastated. He was now stuck with the responsibility of taking care of my sister, barely surviving on his pension. He had to get a part-time job as a janitor at a nearby school. It's what they deserved, and I regret nothing. In fact, I'm quite happy at karma for helping me. I'd have made them suffer more. Nevertheless, karma did a great job. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. They would often stop by whenever Scott wasn't home and call me every degrading and insulting name they knew of.
Barren Black Witch? What? Did you lose your womb while sleeping around? Or did you trade it for money with your black witchcraft?
Ma'am, you're being unfair to me. Scott has told you we're both fine medically. I didn't trade my womb for nothing. How can you even say that?
You're not fine if you're still unable to have a child since 2 years you've been married to my son. You have nothing to say, young lady.
After they left, I would remain in my room and nearly cry my eyes out. I felt so unhappy. Hello, everyone. My name's Anna. I'm originally from Uganda, but I relocated to Italy around the time I was about 12 years old. I'm 32 now, and I'm married to Scott, an Italian man I met way back in college. Scott and I were in the same class, and he immediately stood out to me. He had this easygoing charm and a distinctive Italian accent that made him quite different from anyone else around. I remember the first time he spoke to me. He was asking for help with a project we were both working on. His genuine curiosity and the way he listened made me feel instantly at ease. As weeks went by, we began to see each other more often. We'd sit together in class, study together, and even grab coffee between lectures. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, and I found myself looking forward to our time together. Scott had a knack for making me laugh and feel comfortable, which was something I hadn't experienced before. One evening, as we walked through the campus park, Scott confessed that he'd developed feelings for me. I felt the same way, so we decided to give dating a try. Our relationship grew naturally from there, filled with shared interests, laughter, and deep conversations. It felt like we had known each other for much longer than we actually had. When it came time for Scott to meet my family, I was a bundle of nerves. My family is very traditional, and I hoped they'd be open to him. Scott, however, was wonderful. He made a real effort to understand our culture and traditions. He asked questions, listened intently, and even learned a few words of my native language. The moment Scott stepped into our home, he was greeted with warmth. My parents were impressed by his respect and eagerness to fit in. They saw how happy he made me, and how he genuinely cared for our family. It didn't take long for them to see what I saw in him and to welcome him with open arms. Scott's effort to embrace my background and his genuine nature won over everyone. It was clear that he wasn't just interested in me, but in becoming a part of my world. That made all the difference and solidified our bond. The first time I met Scott's parents, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. I hoped they'd see me the way Scott did, but it didn't take long for things to go wrong. As soon as I walked through the door, Scott's mother's eyes widened in shock. She looked me up and down, her face contorting with disbelief.
What? A black woman? Scott, are you crazy? How could you think of marrying a black lady?
Her voice was sharp and filled with disdain. Scott's father wasn't any better. He stood there, arms crossed, shaking his head.
Honestly, I'm very disappointed in you. A black lady?
I felt my cheeks flush with a mix of anger and embarrassment. Scott, however, was quick to defend me.
You're both being unfair to her. What does being black mean? She's human just like us.
His voice was firm, but I could see the frustration in his eyes. I wanted to speak up, to defend myself, but the weight of the situation left me feeling speechless. Before I could say a word, Scott's mother turned to me with a scowl.
Just leave, Blackie. We don't want you here. We do not approve of you, and we never will.
I felt my heart sink as tears welled up in my eyes. I knew I had to leave, but it was hard to hold back the sobs as I walked out of their home. The drive back was a blur of emotions, sadness, humiliation, and a sense of deep disappointment. The next day, Scott came to me with an apologetic expression.
Anna, I'm so sorry about yesterday. I know how hurtful it was. I've talked to them, and they're ready to apologize. Please, can we try again? They need to understand how wrong they were.
I hesitated, but Scott's sincerity convinced me to give it another chance. A week later, I found myself standing at Scott's parents' door once more, hoping for a better outcome. When I walked in, I was met with a more subdued atmosphere, but the tension was palpable. However, the moment Scott's parents learned about my background, their demeanor changed drastically.
So you come from a poor background?
I suppose you've had to make do with less, haven't you? Did you also sleep with Italian men for money to live here?
His tone was condescending, filled with judgment. The comments stung deeply. Scott tried to intervene, but the damage was already done. Their prejudices were clear, and no amount of apology seemed to change their attitudes. I could feel my composure breaking. I looked at Scott, seeing the pain in his eyes, but the harsh words from his parents had already cut through me. I knew that no matter how much Scott loved me, their views were something I couldn't easily change. Leaving their home for the second time, I felt a heavy weight on my shoulders, realizing that their acceptance was something I might never fully have. Well, Scott and I both came to an agreement to push through with our relationship without his parents' approval. My family felt sad about the refusal to accept me, but didn't let that change how they felt for Scott. With that, we began to prepare for our wedding. Scott's brother wasn't like his parents. He assisted us in every way he could and even asked to be Scott's best man. On the day of the wedding, shockingly, Scott's parents came. They sat at the back of the hall and refused to smile, but I was still happy that they showed up. It meant they cared about their son. They vehemently refused to take any pictures with us, no matter how Scott or his brother tried to beg them. We let them be and simply enjoyed our wedding. After the wedding came another problem. 2 years after our wedding, and we were still struggling to have a child. We'd gone to different hospitals to see countless doctors, but all test results showed that we didn't have any issues medically. I wouldn't have been so worried if Scott's parents didn't constantly ring it in my ears that I was a barren witch. Yes. 1 year after our wedding, they'd both apologized to us, but that didn't mean they liked me. They simply apologized so they could mend their relationship with Scott. They would often stop by whenever Scott wasn't home and call me every degrading and insulting name they knew of.
Barren Black Witch? What? Did you lose your womb while sleeping around? Or did you trade it for money with your black witchcraft?
Ma'am, you're being unfair to me. Scott has told you we're both fine medically. I didn't trade my womb for nothing. How can you even say that?
You're not fine if you're still unable to have a child since 2 years you've been married to my son. You have nothing to say, young lady.
After they left, I would remain in my room and nearly cry my eyes out. I felt so unhappy. But I couldn't tell Scott. I couldn't afford to make him fight with his parents again. Finally, after 5 long years of waiting, I got pregnant. My husband was overjoyed when he got the news. My family too, as well as Scott's brother. Everyone was happy for me except Scott's parents. They accused me of lying about my pregnancy. Even after Scott confirmed that we'd gone together, they refused to believe.
Who knows if she paid the doctor to lie? No one knows what these black, desperate women are capable of.
Scott nearly flared up in anger, but I managed to hold him back. I told my in-laws I was ready to have the test again in whatever hospital they chose. Embarrassingly for them, the result came out to prove that I was truly pregnant. They were so ashamed they hid from us for 3 whole months. On the day they finally visited us to apologize, Scott had to travel to a different country for work. They both volunteered to stay with me, since I was already 4 months pregnant. Scott was skeptical about it at first, but I assured him that I'd be fine. My in-laws brought some of their things and began living with me. Believe me when I say it was the toughest point of my life. They were both pure evil and would make me do things the doctor warned me against doing. My mother-in-law would make me cook countless times a day and end up throwing it in the bin.
Who knows? You might have poisoned that food with your poisonous eyes.
It was so painful to watch the meal I spent hours preparing being thrown into the bin, but I couldn't do anything about it. In the morning, she would wake me up with a bucket of icy water. She would yell at me for being a lazy wife and not waking up early when it was only just 4 a.m. I did her laundry with my bare hands because she prohibited me from using the machine. I never complained.
I heard black women wash with their hands. Scott has pampered you too much. How can he make you use the machine when you have your ugly hands?
Even the times when she made me wash every single clothing item she brought with her on an empty stomach, I didn't complain. I began to grow lean, and even Scott noticed it one night while we were having a video call. I lied to him about being stressed from the pregnancy and he apologized. I felt bad to hear him apologize for something he didn't do. My father-in-law wasn't any better. One day, after I accidentally added a little sugar to his tea, he asked me to hammer 50 nails slowly into a log of wood. By the time I was done, I was panting hard. As if that wasn't enough. One day, he spilled some of his steaming hot tea on my feet, claiming he didn't see me walking toward him. I was living a nightmare with those two. I wanted to get out of it as fast as possible, but I also knew I had to wait until Scott returned. Unfortunately, the day he returned, he met me in a bad state. I'd collapsed in the middle of helping my father-in-law with a very tedious task that even he couldn't do. Scott was so shocked when he came in and met his dad sitting cross-legged while I laid on the floor. Before saying anything to his dad, he picked me up and took us to our bedroom. After I woke up, I burst into tears and told him everything I'd been keeping away from him. Scott was so pissed that he stormed out of the room and went to the living room. There, he met both his parents. Before they could speak, he pounced on them. They received the beating of their lives from him before Scott dragged them to one of our empty rooms. There was no bed there or anything. He told them they'd be there until I gave birth, and only feed on whatever he gave them. I felt bad every time I opened the door to give them their meal. Their cries also touched me deeply. Scott has threatened to show videos of them mistreating me if they ever tried to contact the police. Apparently, he had installed cameras without our knowledge, and they recorded everything that happened when he wasn't home. This seemed to scare his parents even more. They were both there for 6 months. My father-in-law's beards were overgrown, and his wife looked so tattered. Scott forced them to take care of me and our daughter after I gave birth. They did all the house chores, cooked, etc. I was impressed with their new behavior. After a while, they apologized for all their past actions and promised to do better. I forgave them and they burst into cries. I couldn't help but hug them. Ever since, they've both been nothing but good people. I guess Scott beating and locking them up was just the perfect punishment they deserved. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. After we eat, Mom makes sure to tell the staff that it's Emily's birthday, and they bring out a big chocolate cake that Mom custom orders beforehand, with Emily's face plastered in the frosting. I hate chocolate, and every year they get it. We're twins. Why does it only ever have Emily's face on the cake? It's my birthday too.
When you get a prettier face, you can be on the cake too.
Even though she's my twin sister, my family always thought Emily was better than me. For whatever reason, my family was really shallow and placed a lot of value on looks. Growing up, Emily never had any of the problems that I did. She was always fit, never had any acne, and had no problem making friends wherever she went. She wasn't just perfect with her looks. She was always top of her class and the top player in any sport. She was everything that I wasn't, and they always reminded me of it.
It boggles my mind how you and Emily are identical sisters, but no one would ever tell that from looking at the two of you.
Good thing one of you got your mother's good looks and my brain. You should study more to be more like her.
We're identical twins. How can you say we don't look alike?
Your nose is definitely bigger.
This went on for years, and despite knowing that she was the favorite, I would still try to impress my parents, to make them acknowledge my existence. I couldn't compete with all the beauty pageants that Emily won or the grades that she brought home to show them, but I still tried anyway. Around age 14, I started spending more time at after-school activities, so I wouldn't have to be around my family so much. I enrolled myself in as many activities as I could. I was happy with how busy I became and didn't have time to think about my parents and Emily. But it quickly backfired on me. In my pursuit of finding who I was outside of my family, I had forgotten how popular Emily was at school. In all of the activities, when I would walk in the room, everyone's eyes would light up, thinking I was her.
Emily, I thought you said you couldn't make the drama audition because of the volleyball tournament.
Did you get enough sleep last night? You look off. Your nose is a little swollen too. Did you bump your nose or something?
I'm not Emily. I'm her twin.
Oh, thank goodness. I was really worried there for a second. I thought something horrible had happened to her to make her look like that.
Most days after school, I would lock myself in my room, trying to forget that I was a twin. I would lay awake thinking about what my life would have been like had I been born 2 minutes later and her 2 minutes earlier. Would she live the life I was having now? Or was she truly better than me like everyone else said she was? Every summer, my parents would take a trip to their lakeside house, and they would take Emily with them. They would always leave me at the house, saying that I needed to stay to take care of our family dog. When they first started doing this, I would get upset at their stupid excuse to leave me behind and forget that they had an ugly daughter. As I got older, I started to appreciate the time alone that I would get away from them. I would crank music up loud and let it echo throughout the house, dancing as hard as I could. Only Angus could see me anyways. He would lay in his dog bed and watch me as I sang and danced in joy. Then it occurred to me, is this what my life be like without Emily in it? Without her always looming over with how much better she was, and without my parents constantly telling me? My life changed with that thought as a new goal formed within me. I had to get away from them, whatever the cost. I was fairly lucky for most of high school to not have her in most of my classes, but my luck ran out junior year. We had biology together. Everyone would flock to her when it came time to do class projects, and I was often stuck with someone who mistook me for her. There was a particularly challenging partner project that our teacher, Ms. Rodnick, assigned in the middle of the year. By this point, everyone knew who the smart students were, and who were the ones you wanted to avoid if you wanted a good grade. Me and the girl who sat next to me were the students to avoid.
Why doesn't anyone ever want to partner with you? Me, I can understand, but you get good grades.
That's the first time I've ever heard someone call a D a good grade.
Still better than what I've been getting. Do you want to partner up for the project? We've been sitting next to each other all year, and I don't think I even know your name. I just know it's not Emily.
Tanya.
Hannah. For the record, I don't get what the big deal is about your sister. Frankly, I think anyone could look however they wanted if they learned how to do makeup.
Makeup, you say? From that point on, Hannah and I were inseparable. She was the first person who thought I was smart. The frosting on the cake? She didn't like Emily. We would do everything together. The more I got to know her, the more we found in common with one another. She had moved from another state because she was so badly bullied at her old school. She told me that she saw a lot of herself in me when I explained about Emily and my parents. For the first time in my life, I had found someone who seemed to actually care about me. She was like the stereotypical sister that I would see in the movies. We went shopping and talked about boys. I told her that I could never really think about anyone like that because I was so unattractive. At this, she became angry. "No one is ugly, least of all you," she said as she shook me. "You're sleeping over tonight, and we're binge-watching makeup tutorials until you can figure out how to get that thought out of your head." We did this for weeks, practicing makeup on each other, making each other look like all these YouTube makeup influencers. It was during these sleepovers that I first experienced the sensation of looking in the mirror and feeling beautiful. I was so relieved and happy that I cried while Hannah patted my back lovingly. It was then that I became passionate about making other people feel the same way, making others feel beautiful with makeup. I began to practice on myself at home more and more regularly. As I was walking out the door one day to go to school, my mom was particularly nice to me.
Why are you so quiet this morning, dear? You always say goodbye to me before you leave.
I never say goodbye to you.
Tanya, I thought you were Emily. Get out of here. You're late.
It was a bittersweet moment then. I had gotten good enough at makeup for my mom to confuse me with Emily, but still. Senior year, Hannah did something for me that I will never forget. My birthday was coming up quickly, and Hannah wanted to do something to celebrate. I told her I wanted to ignore it. My birthday is usually the day that I hate the most. Every year, they take both of us to a fancy restaurant. It's always humiliating. Emily always get an amazingly beautiful birthday dress for the occasion, and I'm stuck wearing the dress that she got last year that she doesn't want anymore. Even though we're twins, our bodies aren't quite the same. While the dresses look amazing on her, they fit me awkwardly, with loose bunches of fabric everywhere. To make matters worse, Emily would always soak her old dress in vinegar before giving it to me. I could never get rid of the smell no matter how many times I washed it. It's the only dress I could possibly wear to the birthday dinner, and I make other restaurant goers gag as I walk by. The three of them think it's hilarious and laugh as we walk to the table. After we eat, Mom makes sure to tell the staff that it's Emily's birthday, and they bring out a big chocolate cake that Mom custom orders beforehand, with Emily's face plastered in the frosting. I hate chocolate, and every year they get it. We're twins. Why does it only ever have Emily's face on the cake? It's my birthday too.
When you get a prettier face, you can be on the cake too.
I told Hannah about why I hated my birthdays, and she became furious.
You know what? You're getting a new birthday. The day before your birthday is all about you. You were born first, so you should celebrate first anyways. Keep your day open, okay?
I was skeptical, but she had already proven that I could trust her, so I agreed. She was really adamant about it. The weeks that led up to my birthday, I grew more and more curious. I would ask Hannah for more details, but she would just smile at me. The day before my birthday finally came, and I had no idea what to expect. I kept checking my phone for text messages from Hannah, but there was nothing. I heard Emily squealing downstairs all of a sudden. "Oh my gosh, you guys got me a limo this year?" I looked out the window and a long black limo laid in our street. Before my parents could respond, Emily ran out to the limo and tried to open the door. It was locked. Hannah popped her head up from inside and yelled to me, "Get your beautiful butt in here, Tanya." Emily stood with her jaw dropped. As I ran down the stairs, my parents tried to stop me. "Where are you going? Where did you get the money to rent a limo?" I ignored them as I rushed through the door. Outside, Emily was motionless as Hannah stepped outside of the limo, brandishing the most beautiful dress I had ever seen. "Is this for me?"
Of course. I had my dad custom fit it to fit you perfectly. No vinegar smell either.
"Where did you get this limo?"
Oh, my brother owns his own limo company, and he let me borrow this one to take you to your surprise.
We got into the limo together and drove away from my house. My parents stood on the porch watching me drive away. Emily stood in the parking lot, her mouth still ajar with her eyes still wide in disbelief. So what's the surprise?
Remember how you did my mom's friend's makeup? Her name is Justina Caldone. I didn't tell you because I thought you would be nervous, but she's actually a successful fashion designer who was looking for a makeup artist for her latest show. It was like a job interview, really. She was really impressed. We're going to the show now. You're doing the model's makeup.
What? Really? That was one of the most magical nights of my life. I had never seen so many people in such extravagant clothing before. The dress that Hannah got me fit wonderfully. As I moved to each model, I felt almost as if I was gliding across the floor. Each one was super impressed with their makeup and told me how skilled I was and how beautiful I looked. After the show ended, Hannah presented me with a giant vanilla cake with my face on it. I never cried so much in one night before. It was a happy cry. While the two of us were eating the cake, Justina asked if I would become her full-time makeup artist. I readily agreed. Immediately after graduation, I moved out of my parents' house. For the next 5 years, I traveled with her abroad, working alongside her. My face was always on the cover of some magazine talking about what an up-and-comer I was. Eventually, I got enough traction to start my own makeup company. It's doing great. I'd never in my wildest dreams have thought I'd be where I am today. I don't think my parents or Emily thought I ever would either. 7 years after Hannah gave me that new birthday, I received a call. Hello.
Is this Tanya? It's your mother.
Hmm?
Listen, I know we didn't always treat you the best growing up, but look at where you are now. We're in a bit of trouble now and could use some help.
Mom explained that shortly after I moved out, Emily became obsessed with her image. She became addicted to plastic surgery and would have Mom and Dad pay for the procedures. They quickly cut her off and refused to pay, so she would steal the money from them. Mom and Dad are penniless now, and they're at risk of losing their house. Emily ran away after a botched nose job surgery, and they have no idea where she is.
Can you help us? Everywhere I look, I see how successful you are. I know we weren't the kindest to you growing up, but I think if you look in your heart, you'll see that we are the reason you've gotten to be where you are. You owe us. I'm your mother. This is the least you could do.
I am where I am because I worked my butt off to get away from you. I achieved that. Me. Good luck with the house, Linda. I hung up before she could respond, and I never heard from her again. A few weeks later, I heard my parents couldn't afford to pay their mortgage. They were kicked out of the house and are now living on the streets. They both work in a warehouse lifting boxes every day and are being bullied by the young, agile workers because they are slow and old. As for Emily, I saw on the news that she committed suicide after she was laughed at for her appearance and bullied. I have a new life now without them, a better one, and that's the best revenge I can get. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.